and happy Tuesday. I'm excited if you're joining us here from Zoom or if you're watching from the Beyond in YouTube. Welcome. Today's webinar is going to be Finding Your MBA Fit. It's sure to be a great discussion, lots of engagement. So please, if you have questions, type them in the Q&A so we don't miss them. Before I turn it over to our moderator to lead this amazing discussion, I just wanted to share a couple of things about Forte, about who we are, what we do. So we are fueling the future of business. We are a nonprofit organization composed of an alliance of business schools, undergraduate institutions, and leading companies. And together, we help you reimagine what's possible for your future, what's possible for your career. We do this through various avenues of programming, resources, and networking opportunities. And speaking of programming and resources, I'd like to share some upcoming events that are designed to help you succeed at your goals. So the first one is our MBA prep events, like the one you're joining us today. We will have many more in the spring. So in March 18th to 25th, 22nd of April, and May 13th, we'd love to have you join us again. These are free MBA prep webinars. The next one will be on application strategies for final MBA deadlines. For those that are looking to apply here very shortly, you definitely do not want to miss this webinar. You can scan the QR code here or go to our website. I'll drop some links on where the pages are if you'd like to go ahead and register ahead of time. Like I said, it's free to join. If you are looking to build your best MBA application, we'd love for you to consider joining the 2026 MBA Launch Cohort. This cohort is comprised of an application prep, accountability, a community of other like-minded people like yourselves. There's discounts and there's fee waivers for those that finish the program. So we would love for you to consider looking into MBA Launch. The application currently is $0 to apply, and you can learn more by scanning this QR code or going to the link on the website. We could not do the work that we do today without the amazing help of our partner schools. So today's webinar is sponsored by Alliance Manchester, Duke Fuqua, and Johns Hopkins. So thank you so much to these amazing partners who help us bring this content to you. Now, let me stop sharing and turn it over for what everybody is here for, and that is to listen to an amazing discussion. So Amy Orlov from Forte, you have our undivided attention.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. I'm really happy to be here, and I thank all of you for being here too. If you signed up for the session, I'm guessing that you're somewhere between, I should probably think about getting an MBA at some point to, I've opened 47 browser tabs and somehow I understand less than when I started. One of the reasons for that confusion is that an MBA isn't a single decision. It's not just, do I go or do I not go? There are full-time programs, part-time programs, online, hybrid, executive programs. And from the outside, they all sound similar, but actually lead to pretty different experiences and outcomes. So think about today as more of an orientation session, right? We're not here to convince you that you must get an MBA, although we think you should. We're here to help you understand what these programs actually are, how they fit into your real lives, how to start figuring out which, if any, might make sense for you. So as Melissa said, I'm Amy Orlov from Forte. I'll be moderating, and my role today, hopefully, is to play translator between admissions and the rest of us, meaning hopefully I'm going to ask the questions that people usually only ask after the webinar ends. So I'd love to turn it over to our panelists and have them start by briefly introducing themselves, their name, their school, their role in admissions, and how about we throw in one thing you enjoy about working with MBA candidates. I'm just going to kind of go across my screen, and Katerina, you're first.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. It's so wonderful to be here today. Thank you for having us. So my name is Katerina Clark, and I am representing Alliance Manchester Business School today. So we're based in Manchester, UK. And the background behind me is very much not the true representation of Manchester because we have been voted the rainiest city in the UK again. So that is just a one-off for you all to enjoy. So I have been with the business school for over 15 years, and I look after recruitment of students onto our suite of MBA programs. And in answer to your question, Amy, about what I enjoy the most about working with fantastic candidates is really that I still get surprised, even after 15 years, through the array of candidates that I get to speak to, whether it is of our online calls or whether it is through the numerous events that we travel to worldwide. It's always the surprise element, the fantastic array of backgrounds and achievements that candidates bring with them to our MBA programs. So the elements of surprise make sure that the job is never boring, and that's why I'm still here after so many years.
I love it. I love it. And speaking of still here, Sherry, you and I've worked together forever, I think. So Sherry, you're next on my screen.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome everyone. Looking forward to the conversation. Sherry Hubert, I am the Associate Dean of Admissions at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, and I represent and cover all of our 10-degree programs. We have everything from I'd like to say every age and stage of your career, from pre-experience programs to executive MBA, as well as online programs. So this is a very fitting panel discussion. What I enjoy is I received my MBA about almost 30 years ago. And so for me, it was life-changing, and it created the kind of optionality that I didn't even know existed. And so I am excited about, helping other individuals, especially women, realize those same kinds of opportunities in their lives, so that they can be, have agency, they can have confidence, and they can, really set and chart the direction in their career that they would like. So that's what really makes me so excited about this profession.
Thanks, Sherry. Christy, you're next.
Hello, Amy. Thank you all for just having me join today. I'm very excited to be part of this panel and hear from everyone who's participating today. Again, my name is Christy Anowen. I am the Associate Director of Admissions for the Fully Employed MBA program at UCLA Anderson. I also represent our Executive MBA program. We work very closely together as teams. And unlike Ekaterina, we do have sunshine on the UCLA campus most days.
Boo!
We usually have blue skies. Today is an exception. It looks like it's going to rain. But other than that, one of my favorite things about working at UCLA in admissions for the MBA programs is just helping candidates understand that they're actually more competitive as candidates than they think, right? It can be a very intimidating process to navigate the MBA application process. And I just love when I have these one-on-one conversations with them and help them discover that they actually have a lot to offer. And really they do have, a stronger candidacy than they believe. So that's my favorite thing, is just helping empower applicants to pursue their
Christy,
goals.
that's amazing that you said that. And for anybody listening and not watching, everybody nodded their head when Christy said that. Like, everybody's head went up and down agreeing. So thank you for saying that. Elisa.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much, Amy. My name's Elisa Mason. I'm an assistant director of admissions with Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. So I'm really excited to be here today to share more with you all about your journey through the MBA application process. I would say my favorite thing is just watching the growth and the level of development of the students and the candidates that I work with throughout the admissions process, like maturing through the MBA program, and then keeping in touch with them as well through the alum stage and process as well, and just being able to see, all of the beauty in that career growth and the pivots and the changing and the challenges and the triumphs. And so all of that is just really exciting that I feel like I get to be in someone's back pocket throughout, their experience in the process. And so, yeah, that's what I would say would be one of my favorite things.
I love that. And it ties into Sherry talking about how transformational it is, right? And you get to be there for the transformation. And Catherine.
Yes, thanks, Amy. Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine DeMarzo. I am a senior associate director at NYU Stern School of Business. I work primarily on the full-time 2-year MBA, as well as we have two focused 1-year MBA programs. In the past, I've done some work on the part-time MBA as well. I would say my favorite part of being in my role is helping to demystify the admissions process. I think there are a lot of questions about requirements and different programs, and I do really like acting as a sounding board for candidates to, of course, answer any questions that they have, but in some ways also kind of guide them in the right direction as to what might be most appropriate given, what they're thinking, their work experience, their career goals, and things like that. So demystify, I guess, would be my theme.
Love that. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Let's dive in. So Sherry, I want to start at the beginning. When people hear MBA, they often picture one specific program. But can you walk us through the different types of MBA programs available today and what actually distinguishes one from another? Sherry, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question, Amy. And because different MBA formats are designed for different kinds of change, I would encourage people to start with the question, instead of starting with the question of which program, it's what kind of change am I trying to achieve? If you want a hard pivot, new industry, new function, maybe even new geography, the full-time MBA is built for that. It's immersive. You step out of the workforce, you intern, you recruit in a very structured way, and it's the cleanest reset button for those who are looking for that kind of change. If you want to accelerate where you are, perhaps have a bigger scope responsibility, stronger leadership skills, more credibility in the workplace, either part-time or online programs can be incredibly powerful. You're basically applying what you're learning in real time, and the ROI often starts immediately because you never stop earning. I like to say you're learning and you're earning. However, if you're already operating at a senior level and you want to think more enterprise-wide, you want to have a greater scope of impact, executive MBA programs are designed for that. They're less about switching lanes and more about expanding the impact that you're going to have in an organization. And of course, you have any variation of a hybrid model of any of those types of programs as well that give flexibility for people balancing a demanding career, caregiving, geography constraints, just, plain real life, right? And so I like to suggest to people, instead of asking which format is the best or most prestigious, really, ask yourself, am I pivoting or am I accelerating? And if you can answer either one of those questions, it's a really good start to which program would be the best fit for you.
Sherry, I just told you were on mute, and then I put myself on mute and could not unmute. So gotta love Zoom. Elisa, I want to follow up on everything Sherry said and ask you, what kind of students tend to thrive in a full-time program?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Amy. And so we typically say early to mid-career level professionals tend to do the best in terms of the candidacy, looking to make that pivot, as well as Sherry mentioned as well. And really kind of have a traditional full-time 2-year MBA experience that's really transformational. You definitely are going to be someone that's going to benefit from career guidance, from career coaches, in-person networking, hands-on experiences that you're looking to get under your belt to kind of take out into the world with you. Also open to like changing roles and switching, job positions after the program as students are leaving their place of employment to come into the full-time MBA. And so ultimately as well, another factor is just having the time to commit to the program as well overall. It is a very, time-intensive type of commitment with the full-time MBA, but it's definitely really worth it if you're interested in the career pivot or, just kind of looking for that restart button as well. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. And I just want to open this question up, to anybody on the panel. Is there something you see candidates consistently getting wrong about the different formats?
I'll jump in. I think from our perspective, when we see the choice of program sort of being wrong for the candidate is when the candidates don't reach out to people like us. So when they probably do their own research, make assumptions, maybe see some posts on Reddit or other feedback forums, and they just decide that's the program for me, and they dedicate a lot of time, a lot of money, submit the application, only to be faced with a decision from an admissions committee saying this is just not the right program for you. So I always recommend that there's only so much research you can do independently. Please do speak to one of us because we are there to help you. I'm sure that everybody here will agree that your interest is also our interest. We want to make sure that you choose the right format for you, the right program for you, and the right school for you. So yeah, I'd say that's key, is to speak to one of the professionals in admissions or recruitment to get tailored advice for you.
Thank you for that. Catherine, did you want to add something to that?
I did. Just to drive that point home, I think sometimes candidates try, they have a couple of programs in mind and they pick one and they try to incorporate elements of the other program into the one they've picked. And to give you kind of a concrete example of that, perhaps someone does want to make a big pivot in their career, to which I think all of us would say a full-time MBA is really going to be more appropriate for that, but they don't want to quit their full-time job and want to keep working and earning a salary. But in the part-time program that they've chosen, maybe they're trying to pursue recruitment for an investment banking internship, which is really going to be more of like the full-time MBA path, right? So I think again, talking to admissions professionals up front can help to demystify like what is possible within the confines of each program, and really help you pick one that's going to be the most appropriate for you.
Hey, Catherine, can I follow up with that? Because you just started to point out like some of the difference between, right, a full-time MBA and a part-time program, which is the interview process, right? The career search process. Can you talk a little bit more about some maybe other big differences, either in terms of time commitment or classroom experience or outcomes?
For sure. Let me start with time commitment. I think seems obvious to some people, but just to clearly state it, if you are in a full-time MBA program, you are a full-time student. You are dedicating, you're going to class 4 or 5 days a week. You're taking 4 to 5 classes at a time. When you're not in class, you are likely participating in recruiting activities for careers that you might be interested in. You might be participating in student club activities, talks on campus, things like that. So you're not employed full-time in any way. You are just a full-time student. The time commitment for part-time or executive programs, I would say, is going to be more scaled back. So maybe you're taking 1 or 2 classes in the evenings or on the weekends, and you're kind of balancing that with a full-time role during the week. You're working, maybe you still have your 9 to 5 and you're taking classes in the evenings or on the weekends. The classroom experience also is different. I think that a lot of the full-time MBA experience is many MBA programs, they place their students in cohorts or blocks. You take a lot of this, at least core classes with your blocks. There is this really strong sense of community within the full-time program. I would say some part-time or exec programs do have a cohort or block structure, but I think it really kind of depends on the program specifically. So that is a good differentiator between schools. And then as far as like, in person versus online, or maybe even a hybrid model, again, this is going to be different among schools, but generally speaking, I would say a lot of full-time to your MBA programs are in person. Like the majority of your classes are in person. You're coming to campus every day. Whereas part-time programs, there are models where you might be coming to class in person for in the evenings and things like that, or maybe you are taking a lot of your courses in an online format. So generally, these are some of the differences between them all. I know we've already touched upon some of the different career outcomes as well, which we can get into a little bit further as we chat.
Sherry, you took yourself off mute. Did you want to say something?
I did. To add to what Catherine had mentioned, we get questions a lot in terms of, how much tenure or, what kind of age ranges are appropriate for various types of programs, full-time versus executive or part-time. And I think it's hard to say because every program is different, and there are usually kind of ranges of ages and ranges of years of experience that will cut across, a full-time program and let's say an executive program, for instance. And so again, it's things to ask yourself instead of like, am I too old for this, or do I have too much experience over this? It's like, what am I trying to accomplish? And again, and then also understanding the cohort that you're going to be a part of. And so, recognizing that maybe the middle 80% of that class profile will look a certain way in terms of their experience set. And based on what you're trying to achieve and the types of individuals you want to be in a cohort with, that might help you determine, am I better suited to be in a, executive MBA format, or a format, that's part-time where everyone else is also working and has, X number of years of work experience, or full-time where, it could be very close, full-time and part-time. The experience set could be very similar to each other, but it's more about the format and what you're trying to achieve that I think you should lean on a little bit more than just kind of the work experience or the age.
Yeah, and that's a great segue because you started to already talk about this, right? It's not like there's only one kind of part-time program, right? And Christy, I'm going to turn over to you and say, I think this is where a lot of candidates get confused, right? If you want to keep working, how do you decide between a part-time program, a professional MBA, an executive MBA? And like for an executive MBA, does that mean you already have to be an executive?
Great. Yes, this is a common question for sure. And to address the last part of your question first, you do not need to be an executive to do the executive MBA program. The title executive MBA, it really more refers to the level of professional experience and scope of responsibility that the executive MBA students bring to the classroom. So for executive MBA, the real, well, this varies school by school, which is another common thing you're going to keep hearing. Make sure to, reach out to the different schools that you're interested in to learn just a little bit more about the differences between admissions and cohorts and class profiles. But generally, executive MBA is for students who have at least, for example, 5 years of management experience. At UCLA Anderson, we do require at least 5 years of management experience. It doesn't have to be managing people. It can be managing people, projects, budgets. And then in general, students have about anywhere between 8 to 20 plus years of full-time work experience coming into the EMBA program, the Executive MBA program. So yeah, it really isn't about the title that you have coming into the program. It's about what you're doing in your career, and it's typically for senior career professionals. And just to kind of give a little bit of a breakdown between the professional or part-time MBA, such as UCLA Anderson's fully employed MBA program versus executive MBA programs, professional / part-time / fully employed MBA programs are really great for professionals who are looking to continue building depth in their career or even explore a career pivot, or maybe they're exploring other options. So it's typically for students who have between 3 to 10 years of experience. On average, it's 7 years at UCLA Anderson's FEMBA program. Um, Students may be looking for recruiting options because that is an option at UCLA Anderson for fully employed MBA students. But they're looking to continue working, right, while exploring the recruiting resources and learning from their peers. And so it does give them some flexibility on whether they're looking to enhance their career or make a pivot or explore different options. And then for the executive MBA program, as I mentioned earlier, it is designed for more senior career professionals. And on average, they have 15 years of experience coming into the program. And it is more of a like we call it lockstep program where it's pretty quick. It's quick paced. It's a 2-year program, 22-month program at UCLA Anderson. And it's designed for students who already have leadership experience. So it's very much the classroom discussions focused on decision making, leadership, enterprise level impact rather than career exploration. So there's some slight differences between the programs for sure. I would just say the key thing is, fully employed MBA or part-time programs is for more mid-career professionals, whereas executive MBA is for senior career. And typically the fully employed or part-time programs are a little longer. So 33 months, for example.
And if there's one theme I think that's already been emerging from this conversation, it's if you don't know, reach out and ask,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, Christy, I'm assuming that if I have 9 years of experience and I'm just really struggling, maybe I could reach out to UCLA Anderson
Exactly.
and ask, right? Or
That's
Sherry,
what we want.
right?
Exactly. We encourage people to reach out if you're still not sure, because it can be, a lot of details to navigate. And so, yeah, just reach out. We definitely are happy to chat one-on-one. And then if I think, maybe you should talk to somebody else on my team, one of my colleagues on the other program team, I'm always happy to make that introduction as well.
I love that. Thank you. And I really like the way that Sherry keeps phrasing this, right? Is that sometimes we're asking a question, but we really need to be asking a different question. And so now I'm wondering if the way I'm going to word my next question is correct. But Elisa, I'm going to turn to you. From a full-time admissions perspective, when someone applies to you, who's also considering a part-time program, do you find that they're usually trying to solve for a specific problem?
Yeah. So usually, well, I would say that the most common thing is that they want to continue working, I would say, while doing the MBA program. And so I think again, having those conversations beforehand too as well can be really helpful in figuring out the program that's really going to ultimately be the right fit for you. And sometimes you really kind of just need that encouragement, right, to go for it if it is the full-time program. If you do want that career pivot, if you do want that large career transition and change. And so I would say, yes, a lot of times it does feel that they are trying to kind of solve if they're applying for 2 programs at once. Whereas with the professional or part-time MBAs, they may like the piece of being able to enroll in the classes at their own pace or kind of being able to engage, or maybe they have a family, they have kids, and so those things. And so again, I would just say in terms of kind of solving is really trying to have those conversations as much as you can beforehand. And really kind of realizing what the support and resources are going to be behind each program for you. And so I think that like in admissions, I think we do a pretty good job of kind of helping guide you and encourage you, and really kind of embolden you to go after the program that is going to be the right fit for you in the long run. Even though sometimes you might have to, give something up, quote unquote, that you were wanting in a program, to ultimately get the long-term kind of achievement and goal transformation and so on that you are looking for from the program. Hopefully that helps answer.
No, that's great. I really appreciate that. Katerina, I'm looking at you now. Are admissions committees actually evaluating different things depending on the format? Like, do they look for something different if it's the full-time MBA versus a professional or executive? And wait, before you answer that, I have a part two. So, are you reading goals differently for someone trying to pivot careers versus maybe someone trying to accelerate?
Great. Yeah. So I think there's been a lot of conversation so far about the key difference, between the formats, and that does really translate and move across to the admission process itself. So yes, very much so looking for ultimately different individuals for each of the programs that we're talking about today. And if you're looking at full time, where we've been talking about the type of candidate typically applying for this program who are looking for that hard pivot. So because this is somebody who's going to be spending a lot of time on campus, a lot of time with the school, a lot of time in groups, working with others, we are looking for that individual that's going to be able to contribute, that people be able to, learn from. And we're also looking for, instead of the X factor, we're looking for the alumni factor. We're trying to envisage what sort of contribution you're going to make when you move post-graduation to become an alumnus of the business school, of the MBA program. So that is, again, very important consideration. We also have typically somebody from our careers team that sits on the admissions committee for the full-time MBA. And the reason behind that is the ROI, that return investment, because a lot of candidates, quite rightly so, focus on that as a key requirement when choosing their MBA program. But it's also important for us because on the full-time MBA, if you're somebody looking for that transformational experience, we need to be quite honest during the admission assessment in giving your correct answer, in saying, yes, we can definitely see you in a position, changing sectors, maybe working in a different country, or actually, maybe you're somebody who is so successful in their own right that the ROI is going to be very minimal. So it's just not worth your sacrifice, and it's not going to help us in terms of dedicating all that time, because actually maybe somebody who's more suitable to a part-time professional program. And again, if we are assessing candidates for the professional MBAs, maybe even the executive ones, that's where the management experience comes into play. So whereas in the full-time MBA, it's very much not a necessity, on those professional executive MBA programs, like Christy said, we are very much looking at that level of seniority, the leadership experience, which becomes very important. So yes, very much different criteria, and we understand that candidates will have those different goals when applying to different programs.
Yeah, I just was like reversing the order of my questions, because my next question was something else, but I want to pick up on that ROI theme that you were just talking about, because Sherry, and you started to address, right? Like what or Katerina started to address what the different ROIs are for the different programs. So Sherry, if you have anything to add to that, I'd like to hear it. But I also have another question for you, which is, MBA candidates tend to look at future salary as the only factor when they're considering ROI. What are they missing?
Yeah, excellent question. And we say this all the time as well. Look, it's a real investment, so it's very important that you are considering the return on that. But I do agree, like ROI goes way beyond just salary. It is part of it, but I think there are 4 different things that people should take a look at when they're thinking about ROI. Look at timing, trajectory, optionality, and the network. And each of those have in and of itself a different level of ROI. So let's start with timing. Full-time programs usually mean a bigger short-term financial sacrifice, but often a larger salary jump coming out. Working professional program formats mean you're earning while you're learning, as I mentioned before, so the payback clock starts earlier. When you look at trajectory, full-time often gives you a step change, whereas part-time, online, or hybrid, executive formats can create steady paths towards momentum. And over time, that really compounds significantly. So again, it's a more steady upward slope versus a real big kind of step change in your trajectory of what you want to do. And then the optionality ROI, think about, MBA expands. I always like to say an MBA opens doors that are available to you, but it's what you do once you walk through those doors that really are the testament to that value. But that ability to be flexible over a 30 to 40-year career is really significant. I after my MBA, I've changed, had, different sectors, different functions, different companies. And it's really hard to quantify, but it's incredibly valuable for you to know that you can step into any organization, sector, function, and pivot between them, not just make that one pivot once you're going into your business program, but you can make successive pivots throughout the longevity of your career. That optionality is really key. And then
I'm
finally,
glad.
the network.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just have to interrupt you because, interestingly, given the composition of the thing, I just interviewed like a Stern alum not too long ago, and she literally talked about that, Sherry. Like, so Catherine, good news that your alum are really thinking through that optionality. And she said, like, she felt like that flexibility that the MBA gave her and her classmates was pivotal in her career.
Yeah.
Right now. So anyway, Sherry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep
No,
going.
no,
Keep
that's
going.
great. I love to see that because I've experienced that directly. And then the last one, and I'll make it quick, is the network ROI. And again, I don't think, that should not be undervalued in that your MBA network is not just your first job. It's perhaps the future co-founder that you're going to meet. It's your board connection, the person who calls you when an opportunity exists before it's posted. And I have had that happen to me twice in my career. So different formats build different networks differently, and immersive kind of format networks versus senior level breadth kinds of networks. But the long-term value is real across all of them, whether or not you're doing a full-time program or what we call working professional program. That value of the network is really key if you can really capitalize on it. And so when you evaluate ROI, I think kind of zoom out and really understand that this is not just a 1 or 2 year investment. It is a decades long asset that will accrue over time. And I think, if there's one thing I can leave with folks is, choose the format that supports both your ambition and your reality, and then, expand how you define the return on that investment.
Love that. I used to work for a dean of a business school who used to say that, you could change a lot of things. You can change your religion, you could, change your partner, but it's really hard to change your MBA alma mater. So I love that you really focused in on that network for the last one. Catherine, I brought up NYU, so I do want to direct my next question to you. When candidates they usually start comparing schools, right? Are there questions they should be asking themselves before they do that, before they start comparing schools, to figure out which MBA format is best for them?
For sure. I think there needs to be an element of self-reflection before you even start to compare schools and program options. The main question in my mind is, what are your main priorities coming out of an MBA program? And you can go in a lot of different directions. So, for example, if your main priority is to pivot function or industry or do both, that, might lead you towards a full-time MBA program. If your priority is, I just want a business foundation to kind of accelerate my current role or complement what I've done in my work experience so far, maybe that leads you more towards a part-time or executive format. So I think just having these conversations with yourself are going to be really important to identify what really are your main goals coming out of the program. Other things that you might want to think about, your learning style. Do you value being in a classroom setting with others in person? Are you looking for a lot of experiential learning opportunities, which often are more of an in-person offering rather than online? Other things to consider, like, do you have a busy personal and or professional life, and would it be easier to take classes online? For example, right now I have a toddler, so if I was thinking about an MBA program, I think a full-time MBA program would frankly be pretty hard for me to do, just given my personal life. So those are some questions in terms of learning style and personal life. But I also think, again, like, it's important to consider your financial outlook at the moment. Like, is it really important that you need to continue working while you pursue further education? Maybe your employer might sponsor your MBA. That often comes with an ask from your employer, and that you have to stay with them for a certain number of years. So again, I'm going in a lot of different directions, but these are the types of questions you can start to ask yourself, or that will hopefully lead you down the path of like which format is going to be best for you.
No, this is good. And that's what we need, right? We need to know what are those questions that I should be asking myself. So thanks for listing them out. I'm going to throw this question out to the group. After graduation, what career impact can one realistically expect to see from an MBA? And does it differ by program type? And part two of that question is there something in that question that like usually surprises candidates with the answer?
I'll start. So
yeah, Katerina.
So one thing that we say to candidates, independent of the program they're actually considering, is to always manage their expectations. What although an MBA is and can be super transformational, amazing impact, and like Shari said, opens doors for you, it is very much an individual journey. So, are there stories of people who've done an MBA and really nothing's changed for them? Absolutely. Hopefully, nobody from our schools, but it does happen. So it's important to manage your own expectations and to set goals and to have an open mind. Certainly for our candidates on the full-time MBA, we always ask them, yes, to have an idea of what they'd like to do going forward, but to have an open mind as to all the opportunities that will be presented to them during the MBA journey, to make sure that you don't miss out on those opportunities. For candidates who joined us and who've got a very fixed idea where they want to be, sometimes a fixed idea on a company and a location, you think, but that may be too narrow. You may miss out on so many amazing opportunities along the way. Yeah. So we always say in terms of that goal, to really manage your expectations, because an MBA is not a magic solution for everyone, and you will need to do a lot of work yourself. We help a lot of schools through our alumni career services, but it is up to every individual candidate to make those connections, to harness that network, to get the result that they're striving for.
Right. It's like joining a gym, right? Just having the gym membership doesn't exactly meet your fitness goals, right? You actually have to work at it. Anyone else have something to add?
I'll add to that. Oh, sorry about
go ahead, Christy, and then
just
Elisa.
Real quick, because I totally agree with everything Katerina said, and Sherry did a great job of talking about how quickly the ROI starts to kind of show itself depending on the program. But I think a big thing just to keep in mind is you're still part of the network regardless of which program you do, right? So UCLA Anderson, for example, it's the same degree in the end. Whichever you choose, FEMBA, EMBA, full-time, you're still getting the same degree from UCLA Anderson, and you are part of the network regardless, right? And so just keeping that in mind and knowing like there are definitely opportunities to stay involved as an alum and continue building on those connections even beyond graduation across programs, across the globe, really. Yeah, just leveraging that and staying connected, I think is a big thing. to strive for.
Love that. And Elisa, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, definitely. Just wanted to underscore everything that was said, and the fact that you're the driver, right, of your, journey and your destination through the program. The staff, the faculty, support, et cetera, that you get during the program is just on the passenger side. So we might say, hey, maybe you want to turn off here, you want to go here, or this might be an option for you. But essentially, you are the driver of your own career, your own MBA experience. And so we'll be looking to you for the direction, so we can help you through that process as well. Another piece and point too, as we're kind of talking about career services as well, is kind of looking at the different types of career services sort of styles that different schools may have and how they guide you through that process, what the recruitment process looks like for that particular school, et cetera. Those can be really good questions that you can ask during the admissions process as well to see if it's going to feel like a good fit for you and the type of support that you're looking for.
Yeah. I have one final question, but before I ask my question, I think I want to turn to the audience questions because they're starting to pile up. So I'm going to take them in the order in which they came in, and I'd love for anybody who wants to answer to chime in. Our first person asks, I'm still not sure what's the best match for me, a master's or an MBA. If you could share some insight on a master's, I guess that's a master's of finance or a master's in management versus an MBA. Anyone want to take that?
I can take it. So I would say, I think they both can get you what you're interested in, depending on what that is. But a master's is a very specialized type of degree in a specialized subject matter, right? As Amy said, master's in finance, a master's in marketing. So you're going to go deep. Whereas an MBA, usually these are general management programs. And I would say an MBA probably also emphasizes a little bit more the leadership, the organizational behavior, the management aspects of a particular degree, and like leading people, those kinds of things, I think are a bit more emphasized in a MBA because it's about organizational leadership, as opposed to a master's it goes pretty deep, and this is a generalization, but it doesn't mean you can't manage people, but it may be more for someone who wants to be more technically astute in their particular career trajectory, whether or not they're managing people or not.
Thank you. Thank you for that. The next two questions actually have to do with research. So one is about, are there both online part-time and online full-time options? And then do any online schools offer in-person opportunities? But I think at the heart of both of those questions is, where do you go to research schools? There's so many options out there. So I'd love someone to weigh in.
I'll start. I do think events like this are a great start because it just kind of starts to open your perspective as to what types of formats are out there. Then, once you start to narrow in on a format, you might, for example, if it's important to you that you're attending classes in person, maybe you want to not move across the country. So you might kind of like limit your research to schools that are around you, for example. But honestly, I think all of our schools have really great websites that can give you really detailed information about formats, about what the curriculum is, about career outcomes and things like that. So I would advise doing a deep dive into any schools that you might be interested in. And then, maybe very quickly you might decide, actually, yeah, this might be a great fit for me, or you might quickly say, you know what, this isn't the one for me, and you can kind of move on. But I think a school's website, honestly, is always a great place to start.
Yeah. Sherry.
Yeah, can I add to that? In addition to, because there's a question in the Q&A that also is aligned with this around accessing and interacting with admissions officers. And I think that's another place to go to get relevant and accurate information is to go directly to the source. In addition to checking out the website for the content and doing maybe some preliminary research, then go directly to our admissions teams. We all, we're in this role of admitting, right? So we're champions for you. We're very excited that you're embarking on this journey, and we are human beings. And so, I would really encourage people to find us at the events that we may be at, both be it in-person and/or virtual events, and then call the offices, email the offices, and ask the questions. If their process and policy is that they will meet with prospective students, then take them up on that. It's invaluable. Go visit the campuses if that's in your financial ability to do that, because that is invaluable in terms of the information that you're going to get, talking to the students and the alumni. All that kind of firsthand perspective is just truly invaluable, and we encourage it.
So let me ask a follow-up to that, because it was also a question that was in here, and candidates do want to do that, right? And they want to reach out, but then they're also afraid of being judged unprofessional or, overstepping or too much. How can they balance that? Anyone want to take that?
I could take that.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I think don't worry about it. We know that you all have questions and there's a lot to consider. So I think one key thing is, like, if you are kind of at the beginning of your research phase, maybe attending a more general, like, info session webinar kind of event is a great place to start. And then from there, if you have follow-up questions that are more specific to you and your candidacy or situation, you can reach out to one of our admissions staff members. And if you even need a second conversation, we do follow-up one-on-ones. And so I think what we encourage is, connecting with a admissions officer and then maintaining that connection along the way. And instead of kind of jumping from one admissions staff member to another, it's actually best to just stay in contact with one, because we do keep notes on our conversations and it helps us to customize our advice.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I actually don't know the answer to this question, so I'm curious about this too. Can students switch between full-time and part-time?
I think that's going to be
We all
school
came off
dependent,
mute.
Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amy, I think that's a question that's school dependent. So it's probably best for that individual to really talk to the schools that they're really interested in and ask that question.
Perfect. And everyone's nodding their head. So I think that's the right answer. Thank you. Thanks for that. So I have a question about for people thinking of applying that want to interact with the admissions teams personally, right? That you talked about going to events, Sherry, but are there specific questions that are signals to you that this person has done their research versus, okay, this person is starting from scratch and using me as, as a scratch? How can they come and show you that they're prepared?
Okay, Amy, I'm sorry. Can I answer this? Because this is one of my favorite questions, I have to say, or things to answer. I say this all the time. Because one of my biggest pet peeves is when I interact with someone and the first question is, can you tell me the difference between your program and this program, or what makes your program better than this program? And I am, I always say, look, what you should do is, it is much better for you to determine what is important to you. And what are the drivers for the programs that you're looking for? And then say, look, I am interested in X, Y, and Z. How does your program address what's important to me? As opposed to, how does your program compare to, because I don't know how my program compares to a different program. I'm responsible for my program. They're responsible for their programs. And quite honestly, it's never a good look for us to be comparing our programs, because all of these programs are wonderful programs and you can achieve your objectives and your goals from any. I always say there's a business school out there for every single person who wants to, pursue it. And so I love that question, Amy. Thank you for so start with yourself and what's important to you, what your priorities are, and then approach the school and ask them, based on your priorities, how does that school match up?
Yeah, thank you. Katerina.
Yeah, we get that question so much, Sherry. So I am going to be referring my candidates to you now because that was an amazing answer. I can tell you about my school. I'm not going to be telling you about other schools because that's your job to find out. But yes, that's we recently started getting questions about, give me top 3 reasons why I should come to you. It's just not, it just, screams lazy. So, you need to think about, although there are no bad questions, I get asked quite a lot, for example, how full-time is your full-time MBA? And the answer is full-time. But there really are no stupid questions. But what I think schools don't appreciate is candidates who just basically show no willingness to find out any information and almost expect us to spoon feed them everything or give them some sort of comparison table. It just doesn't work that way. When you need to show some sort of interest in our specific school and our program, it really helps start that conversation on a positive note.
Yeah, yeah, and the MBA itself is a rigorous experience, right? So if you're not going to start putting in the work, doing the research from the get-go, what does that say about how you will be as a candidate? Right? So I think that's really interesting. This question I would be remiss not to bring up because it's on everybody's mind. Should financial limitation let me discourage my interest to pursue an MBA?
I'm gonna take that and I'll say no. I think that there are a lot of different ways to finance an MBA, and you might be surprised about the different options that are available, the different scholarships that are available, which could be merit-based. At some schools, even some need-based aid may be available. Wink, wink, hint, hint. So there are a lot of different options in terms of financing the MBA. We have financial aid counselors too that can help you, move through that program. A lot of us in admissions as well, of course, have been through the process with plenty of students also, and can kind of help you talk through different options that may be suitable for you. And so I would say don't get immediately discouraged by the price tag. Ask questions, connect with us first, and then figure out what's going to be feasible for you realistically in terms of program and the fit for your career goals and so on. And let that kind of help shape your decision on how you're going to pursue the MBA.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Before I turn it back over to Melissa to close us out, my final question for you all, and if I didn't get a chance to call out your question, I encourage you to do what everybody on this call has just said, right? Reach out to them, ask your question. But if I could just ask each of you, what's your one, overarching advice for all people exploring an MBA? Katerina, we're going to go in the same order in which we started. So, Katerina, I'm going to turn to you.
I'm going to be a bit controversial and obviously promote the wonderful location. So we know that the US is the home, the mother of MBAs, but I always say to candidates that I speak to, consider all possible opportunities, Europe, UK, Asia. I think sometimes candidates forget that MBAs are offered outside of the US, and I'm here to represent UK and Europe today. So yes, definitely try and broaden your horizons and consider all available options, because you don't know where that's going to take you and which adventure you're going to start.
Love that. Sherry?
Yes, I would say the right MBA should stretch you, but it should not destabilize the life that you're building. So, choose the format that supports the goals and objectives and the ambition that you have, but is also the reality that you also are living in.
Right. Christy? Oh, sorry, Sherry.
No, I was going to say,
I
think there's all different ways to still achieve the success that you want to. So
awesome. Christy?
Yeah, I think just again, reach out. We are happy to talk to you one-on-one. We're happy to help you navigate the process. And we want to make sure it's a good fit both ways. It's a two-way street. Yes, we believe our programs are great, but it may not be the right fit for you. So, and that's okay. We're still happy to help you navigate that.
Elisa.
Yeah, so I would just say believe in you, know that you're worth the investment. Take the time, to upskill, and do what you need to do to move forward in your career. And to emphasizing what we heard earlier as well about like knowing or being more confident in what you have to bring to the table. So many times candidates feel that they aren't necessarily strong in, certain areas or something of that sort. And then we sit down and we have a talk with them and we're like, wow, like blown away from your experiences. And so just know that you have something unique. Each of you has something unique to bring to the table in an MBA program. And I think, part of figuring out too what that is just through conversation as well and connection and having those conversations. So explore, don't be shy, and believe in yourself.
Thanks. And Catherine.
Yes, I think my advice would be don't rush the process. I think we've all said many times that, there are a lot of similarities between all of our wonderful programs. There are a lot of differences. And I think if you take the time to research different programs, the formats that they offer, and match those with your priorities and career goals, hopefully, you'll end up at the program that is best fit for you and your goals, but that does take time. So don't rush the process would be my advice.
All great advice. This is wonderful. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank our panelists, and I do want to say I know MBA alum from each of your programs, and I can attest to each of your programs is wonderful. And Melissa, I'll hand it over to you.
I just want to echo Amy's thanks to our amazing panelists today, as well as the attendees. Thank you so much for showing up and bringing such amazing questions. Amy, thank you so much for an amazing moderation and just seamless control of such a beautiful and inspiring conversation. And thank you again to our sponsor schools. We could not bring this content without the support of such amazing schools. If you have any questions about what you've seen today, please don't hesitate to email us at premba@fortefoundation.org. And thank you again so much for listening.